Hey folks, we are going to continue work on our maps for the adventure in Eberron, Crystals of Mabar. So give me a second here to check my signal and then we'll dive into some fun for a couple hours. So let's see. How's my signal sound today? Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's pretty solid. All right, cool. That's good. Let's see. Let me go through my my intro spiel, and then we'll dive into this. So, hey, my name is Theurgy. I create role-playing game supplements that I publish online. Right now, I focus my attention on Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. There's a slew of work that I've created previously that's in the description down below. You can click into any of those links to DMsGuild.com, and it'll take you to the various books that I've created. They're all 100% free preview, so you can read through. Hold on. Checking. Something cattywampus going on. Hey, Dreams. There is definitely something cattywampus going on. I feel like, I'm double posting for some reason. How weird. Hold on. Just trying to get through my spiel here real quick, and we'll dive into some artwork. But yeah, so I create stuff on DMsGuild. There's a slew of books and the links down below. If you click on any of them, it'll lead you to a product page. They're all, if you're on a desktop or a tablet, there'll be like a full preview link underneath the book covers. And if you are on a mobile phone, then there'll be an eye icon on the right-hand side of the screen. And so if you click on the eye icon or the left-hand side of the screen, either way, a PDF will pop up, and you can read all of those books, 100%, read them cover to cover. And there's probably about 150 some odd illustrations in there. If you're here for the art, then go ahead and check them out. Otherwise, if you're a D&D enthusiast, if you find any of the ideas cool, consider making a purchase to support more efforts. So, other way we can support the channel, follow me on Twitter at Filkearney, Filkearney, like in the name title of here. Otherwise, following me on YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to help me grow the channel so that we can continue doing long-form artwork like this. So right now we are working without any further ado. We will we'll dive into this for, I'm going to set a timer here. We'll see how long I can hang. It'll be for at least 100 minutes. Possibly 2 hours. We'll just see. We'll see what happens. So, but we'll chop it up into 20-minute blocks. Here we go. When we last left off, we had Dreams. How you doing, man? How was the game on Saturday? We had created all the interior assets for like the bed, the trunks, the buckets, the table, the gear on the table, all that stuff. This is what we did last week on Thursday, and we've taken care of the constabulary and the commons area. Now we are going to work on the stables. There's some workbenches here that we can resolve equipment with. So let's see. How do I actually want to do this? It's great. We are about to fight Zaztarn. Right on. GLHF. Yeah, I'd love to run around and tinker with the structuring of how SKT works. That'd be, I think, a lot of fun. Wait, what is... hold on then. So this is all trash. Yes, it is. Everything makes sense now. So we can go to BW, which is here. And then here is stuff and things. such as these doors, which are designed to, if you grab any one of these doors, they are designed to beep, 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 slide into place. You can close the doors like this is how barn doors actually work. They have these little struts that the door will slide along. Good ones will have like little wheels that the door can slide along. But that's pretty much how they park these things. At least that's how the barn I worked in operated. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Boy, this is a fucking ugly map. What was I doing? Let's try this again. Shall we? Oh yeah, right on. Four pixels is the size of structure that we want. That is an obstacle that can't be crossed under normal means. If you're gonna be incorporeal, why would you waste that ability from going to one stall to another? Well, I guess if you're trapped in there, like if you're an angry horse and you don't want to be trapped in there, I guess that makes sense. This makes me think of Ultima Online. I used to be a huge Ultima Online nuts back before WoW and even before EverQuest. There was UO. Ultima Online, it was an isometric perspective, pretty low poly MMORPG. I believe the first one, and it was fucking fun, man. That game was crazy gonzo fun. It was it really set the bars on tamers, that's for sure, because you could run around with a pack of dragons just decimating any dungeon that you roll through. I'd like to go into a dungeon. I got my taming up to 100%, so I could pretty much tame anything I looked at. And it was no small. It took months to do that. Just months of clicking and running away from hellhounds, or clicking and running away for harpies, stuff like that. And I eventually got up through drakes and got to that 100% mark with the white dragons. But once you did that, it was fun to go to a dungeon, go into the dungeon, and just spend your time just charming a bunch of stuff so that you would create a posse of creatures around you. It was kind of like conjure. It was like in 5e, it'd be like conjure animals, but it's just the creatures that are around you. So it's basically like mass suggestion or something. And they basically create a squad around you, and then you spend a few minutes creating all the macros for all the unique names. And then you just hit macros of clicking. So you like F2 click, F3 click, F4 click would be this guy. Like Larry, Moe, and Curly would then have 3 separate targets that they would each go in and wade in on. So it was fun running combat squads that way. I guess the original XCOM as well. But yeah, you just roll into a dungeon, grab up some cool assets from it, and just start pushing your way down the dungeon. And as you got to new level creatures, you'd let the old ones get killed, and you just pick up the new ones and just keep updating your posse to keep moving through until you get to the bottom and, tearing demons apart or like fighting dragons and crap like that. It's cool. That was a fun. This was an MMO. Yeah, this was Ultima Online, the very first multiplayer game system. It was revolutionary. That hit us in college, so that turned a lot of that and Doom were the two things that really just fucked people's college education. I still played in a pack of guys that enjoyed Street Fighter 2 on the old NES. So wasn't not much of a Doom fan, or I don't play. I never played it. I don't have. I've got horrible eye-hand coordination, so I don't have good muscle twitch, so I was never a good first-person shooter sort of person. But MMOs are great. That was Ultima was hella fun. Like everything was PvP. If you leave town, you can get there's just gangs that hunt outside of town that would wait for somebody on foot to come out and just shiv them. Just drop them. When we were poor, we'd like when me and my team would roll onto a new server, and we had 0 resources. We'd all strip our character, like we'd go mining and strip our characters nude. This was pretty common tactic for everybody after a while, was to strip nude, run from one city to another. So if you get killed by bandits along the way, you don't lose any of your stuff. You put it all in a bank. You run to the next town. You pull the stuff out of the bank. And then you could go on your way. But it was great. And then there was houses, and there was a lot of the hardcore PvP players were banned from going into towns because they had such an evil alignment, quote unquote evil alignment. You became evil by killing other characters and quote unquote noble characters that are NPCs. And so their reputation would get, so they become these dreadlords, like they had the dreadlord title, that if they went into town, AI guards would automatically start butchering them for like 70% of their hit points per hit. Like the maximum hit points you could have in that game, I think, was 225, and the guards would hit for 150 hit points each. So like if you fuck with the guards, it's basically you're screwing around with the economy of the game. So they would slaughter you fast for it. So these dreadlords couldn't go into town, and the only way for them to be able to accumulate wealth on them was to have houses out in the wilderness, and you had a key. And if you had the key, you could get into the house, and you owned the house. So when you PvP people, a lot of times you're playing for their property. Like if you kill them, you're going to take their house. And some of them had like this honor code amongst each other that you don't steal other people's houses, because that's the only way that they can accumulate any kind of wealth if they choose that style of a character. And so they had this honor code going on, and people like me that got mugged by these guys because I was just trying to run to Trinsic, I didn't respect that code of honor. So we'd go and we'd kill them and then steal their house. That was so fun. God, everything was just the Wild West then, man. There was no rules. It was like the verbal components, the magic words that you would say when you cast a spell as a character. Your character would literally say it. So if you worked an algorithm that you would have cast spell and then like say nothing, say nothing, say nothing, it would scroll through those prompt commands so quickly that you couldn't see. The character became basically like a subtle spellcaster. You couldn't see text above their head anymore, and so you couldn't tell what they were doing. They make this gesture, but that gesture could be them cleaning clothing, because we'd all be out cleaning out our own clothing while we waited for the next fight. And so if you hide the spells, your enemies don't know that you're dropping a major demon on them, or you're going to hit them with paralysis or something, and then shiv them, because we figured out a way to hide the nuances of spellcasting that people keep an eye out for, and you can hide that, and you basically become a stealth caster, and you gain that half a second edge on your enemy that you needed to be able to, to PK them. Fun shit. I tell you, the olden days, those are fun. How hinges are made in a little town like this. See, that's they don't really need. They don't need hinges per se. Well, they have hinges here, but they're all built like with these large wooden blocks that have grooves cut into them that you can hook the door onto. So these can be completely wooden hinges that we're building here. And these little struts, they can also be carved grooves as well. And even in the barn that I worked at, in modern day technology, I basically had to lift the gate and drag it into position. It's just the struts were there to keep it in alignment so it wouldn't fall over, but it was mostly just muscling the door open. The hinges, like those little ball bearings, they barely worked at all. It was just like they did not want to turn. So you're basically just dragging the stall doors open, and then these ball joints that we're working with. They you basically why is that not there? This basically attach. This is poorly drawn. I can tell now. There. Should be like that. It's a high degree of slop on this map I'm not necessarily content with. Just noticing it. But yeah, carve the doors so that it can sit flush, and then you can just have a stake, a thick a fixed stake driven into the ground, like a post driven into the ground that's got a groove carved out of it, and you can just have a coupling that staples around it. I didn't bother with that level of detail here, but that's easy enough. They do have a smithy, so if they can get some pig metal, they can build rudimentary stuff like hinges, which aren't too difficult to make. It's basically a nail with 2 C-clamps around it and 2 flaps off the side. That's if you can make a shoehorn. If you can make a horseshoe, you can make one. So. Oh, yeah. Hey, Nitro. Yeah. Ultima, Bard's Tale. Those are the 2 big standouts I can think of right now. There's Legacy of the Ancients was a really fun game that was out, I think, like in, I want to say 88, 87 maybe. It had like a large overland map, and then you could zoom into like a little dungeon, and it had towns you could run around and gamble in and pick fights with the guards and potentially win. So you can get in, gamble, get called for cheating because you had a cheat option. And if you got caught cheating, then the guards would get called on you, and you could legitimately try to fight your way out with your loot. Otherwise, they wouldn't kill you. They basically kick you out of town, take all of your money, all your weapons, all your armor, basically leave you with nothing in the wilderness. And if you tried to come back, they would remember who you are for a year. So you had to fuck off for a year. So you have to stumble on to the next community. It was great. That was a great game. Ultima was pretty cool. I mean, Bard's Tale. I didn't play a lot. I didn't play hardly any Ultima, but Bard's Tale was always really cool. It went to ridiculous levels, like level 99 or something like that, like character levels, and the kind of like a +5 swords being dropped by when you fight 10 beholders or whatever. It got a little ridiculous after a while. Honestly, Bard's Tale did more to burn me out on high-level D&D gameplay than I think any campaign I actually have ever ran. It's when you have such huge numbers grinding at you every 4 or 5 steps that you take in the world map. Like you're along an ocean's you're along an ocean beach, and you get attacked by 105 water elementals. It's like, come on. But that's what. And then I would go back to Beckme, and be playing in Companion like around level 17. It's like, you know what? Bard's Tale ain't that wrong. This high level stuff is just kind of redundant, which is, I think, a lot of the reason why kingdom building was so cool for Beckme, because it really pulled the focus away from how powerful your characters as individuals are, and it kind of refocused it into building a kingdom with followers and having, low level common day issues to deal with. It was fun. But I love that kingdom building stuff inside of games. When I ever build my own, it'll be built around Empire. But I'd really like to build those mechanics out for 5e first, just to complete the set, just so I can have Ravnica work the way that I want Ravnica to work, and have Dragonlance run the way that I want Dragonlance to work. And I will be playtesting that Dragonlance. I'm expecting to start playtesting that. I'm hoping in September I can do my preliminary low level first act combats, which should be pretty easy to do. But we'll have to. I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and buy the. I don't think I can find the board game anywhere online. I might be able to find a PDF for it, but including like the actual board and stuff, that'd be some serious piracy. So I'm not really interested in that. I just want to get my hands on the board game so I can properly rebuild it for mass combat in 5e. That's the whole point of it. So. And I want to do it in 5e because it's my hubris. I know this is ego, but if it's a motivator, then cheers. Is that Wizards wants you to spend $150 to play Dragonlance? It's like, fuck you. That is ridiculous. How about we just build a mass combat system that works for 5e? Get rid of your stupid fucking board game, but we can take all the challenges from the board game and build them into 5e scaling maps at the 50 or 500 foot scale, depending on the size of the army that you're operating with at that level of the adventure, so that you can have a smooth scaling inside of Dragonlance, like the actual campaign book, and then scale out to the larger army to have the 500 or even 1 mile scale troops attacking a city or a citadel or something like that. And that way you can actually have that larger scale battle going on in the background, like literally going on in the background while you zoom in on what your characters are doing at this particular task. But then you'd have a rollover. Like Spelljammer, the ships fly so fast that moving 10,000 miles per round, that's just one round, 1 6-second round of movement. That's how fast Spelljammer ships move. But if you're going to move troops, human troops on foot that are going to, like, what was this? It's basically it's 30 feet for movement during a round. It's 300 feet of movement for a minute-long round, and it's 3,000 feet of movement for a 10-minute round. And basically, the way that you resolve it, you use a lot of the same scaling mechanics I already have inside the Spelljammer book for the siege weapons. It works. It's basically troops are like squadrons, but flesh squadrons. Each creature inside of the squad or the platoon adds to the total hit points, durability, and damage that the squad can do, and their rank, depending on what their CR or their renown has accumulated in a number of successful battles that they survived, determines the rank of the squad or battalion or army, depending on what scale you're working at. And so the way that a round would work is that if you're engaging enemies in melee, if you're within melee weapon or ranged weapon, the round is just 6 seconds, like you would expect it to be. But if you're moving, then combat attacking either happens before you move while you're still within range of weapons, or after when you move within range of weapons. But if you're going to move, like say 6 miles, you're going to take your army of 10,000 soldiers and move them 10 miles to go engage this other enemy, then you're going to take that one round of combat to move that 10 miles across a 10-mile scale board, just to move over that square, and then you can zoom back in to, well, they're within melee combat now, so I can resolve the rest of the round in the 6 seconds that remain at the end of that 2-hour walking process or whatever. And in reverse, if troops are engaged side by side already, then you can make an attack first and then disengage, and that disengagement lasts for like an hour, a minute, 10 minutes, all day, a week, depending on what scale of army you're operating at or what scale of square. That way you can start looking at things like once per season my entire kingdom can take an action. So you take the largest scale that you have operating in your game world right now, which is at the nation level per season, and then you scale down to a local fief, which would act like, say, every 10 days. You're inside that fief, so you've got what is your army doing today, and then you move your troops that day, and if they engage an enemy, then you zoom in and continue with battle at that scale, knowing that if you've exhausted your movement for the day, you can't get away, and you're stuck there. And so, and then you can zoom in further. Well, if your team is caught inside of a battle they can't get away from because they've ended movement for the day and they're adjacent to the enemies, now you have a skirmish line that you have set up between the troops. And now you can scale in further and further from the daily down to 2 hours, down to 10 minutes, down to 1 minute, down to 1 round. There's these 5 scales from kingdom down to character, from K to C. So you can scale down, but all the mechanics stay the same for what you're used to. Like we have the command actions that you can take as standard actions, bonus actions, and movement actions, and command actions to be able to coordinate your troops and move around underneath your character's command. And while your commander is within command zone of those troops, the commander can take that damage for the team. Or you could strip away soldiers from your squad unit to represent hits instead of actually damaging the squad. Or your character, you can just kill off frontline troops. And then once you run out of additional flank lines, like a 50 by 50 is like 100 troops, but only 10 of them can skirmish on the actual line of engagement. So it's 10 d8 damage if they're using swords. So you're doing 10 d8 damage to each other at two facing armies, and you have all these line of soldiers that are waiting to feed into the front line as soldiers drop, crawling over each other to continue the battle. So you can be stripping away troops on the back end of your ranks to represent hits that are being taken before you actually have to fatigue the amount of damage that the squad or the platoon or the army as a whole is dealing to each other. It's an attrition. And once you start whittling down those troops until you only have like your core hero 300 team left, that's when you start looking at, well, just do I want my commander to start taking damage for my squad of 300 or whatever, Leonis as it were. He's going to be providing protection to the rest of his team while he takes that damage, or he can let the squad or the platoon take damage directly instead of him having to take it, or he can kill off individuals inside of that platoon instead of anyone taking damage. But that gets rid of your troops. So you're one way or another, you're whittling down your troops over time. After a while, your commander can't take any more damage for the army, so that's when they start breaking morale. When your commander can't carry your team anymore, your team's morale starts to break. So you could find yourself losing troops just because your commander isn't taking damage for them now. So there's a lot of ways to lose troops in that process, but it's nothing that we don't already have that exists inside of the Spelljammer document. The Spelljammer document came out of the mass combat system that we had already built. We're just doing Spelljammer first because it's a hotter topic and it's a lighter lift than having to do the Dragonlance book, which is probably going to be a fucking 200-page document. It's going to be insane. Anyway, I'm on a total tangent. Don't mind me. Just bitching about Dragonlance. But that thing's going to be off the hook when it's finally done. But why was I chasing this is? I knew I had a good reason. Oh yeah, Beck me, doing my own stuff. Redundancy learned through Bard's Tale. Right. Yeah, if I ever build out my own system, I'm going to build it with that scaling mentality. Like you can start as a kingdom and then zoom into your characters, or start with characters and build out an empire, or swap back and forth as your plot line would allow you to, depending on what your challenges are. But I love that kind of gameplay. It's my favorite type of gameplay. It's just so a lot of it is like 5e is the only game system that I find to be really good to have. It's like the smoothest system for scaling from any 5-foot scale up to 500,000 miles. It is the smoothest scaling mechanical system that I ran across yet. It is absolutely my fucking favorite, which is why I don't mind expressing all these things in on the DMs Guild through Wizard of the Coast IPs, because it's 5e is what created these ideas for me. I'm a big believer in give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. They inspired me to create these things. I'll give them a cut of it by building these things for their tools. But once I'm done showing how all these things work inside of D&D, I'll probably move on to build something specifically built specifically using these ideas in mind. And I think Essence 20 actually has the most potential for building something meaningful like that, because it uses it's already attempting to work in larger scale with Transformers and Power Rangers, but it doesn't get into the nitty gritty of the scaling, like the actual grid mechanics of it and how that works. They didn't intuit how the system can actually work, but they do use the proficiency die instead of proficiency bonuses, which I think are absolutely critical for being able to use these systems the way that I have them set up. So I'm going to build some. I'm gonna have to build I want it here. I want to build it right. This is a it's useful to have a salt lick for the horses because they need to get salt and they don't necessarily get it from hay. Hay is a very depleted source of nutrition. They need it. It's richer. Its fiber is higher than raw grass because it's a hardier grain, as it were. I guess for lack of a better word. But it's lacking the potassium, I believe. I don't think I'm totally talking out of my ass when I say that. But having said that, having a salt lick in the stall is it gives the horse something to enjoy because horses love salt. But it also helps them digest. So salt licks are good, and so putting a salt lick in the barns that I was running around in, it was actually like a sink, almost like a sink bin that was set up in the corner that you could have both the salt lick and you could shake grain into the bowl of it. So it was useful to have that little setup here by the slats, the pulls, the bars, the window bars that keep the horse from trying to shove his head through to cause trouble out here. But you can reach through with your arms. Since it's about that wide, you can reach through and you can dump it in there, or you can swap out you'd swap out the salt lick when the horse isn't in there. But you want it to be a large enough space that the horse can turn circles, that the horse can go to the window so he can get fresh air. So each of these stalls have a window for the fresh air. And there's a dark corner. The dark corner is where they shit and piss. So, and a lot of times dark corners have drainage out the bottom of them. Like the barn I worked at was at the top of a hill, and there was drainage out the bottom. So they just piss out. It would just literally just pour out the bottom of the barn down the hill, and there'd just be all these massive lush bushes here. So they poke their head out and they look over the bushes, and there was basil, so they could chew on the basil leaves if they wanted to. And there'd be little flowers and stuff that would crop up that they would eat when they would bloom. So hanging their head out the window was awesome. And then they had their dark corners here that they'd be able to pee out of. But then they'd face this way. You put their food here next to the lick, so they could lick, eat, look out the window. And then you have a bucket of water here. So you have lick, water, food, window, poop in the corner. And they only had to face this way, or they could face this way, so they didn't actually have to get in their own muck ever. And you can get in and out of the stall without having to deal with their own corner. But then you got to go and they're gonna dump in it twice every 8 hours. So over the course of the days, there's a pile of treasures for you to go scavenge. But that's the composition of a stall. So I want to build out like I said, the salt lick. And we'll take another bucket. We'll grab a bucket. Bucket stuff. Let's go see if I can go find a bucket. I suspect I'm ignoring conversation points here. Oh, you own the board game, do you? Holy shit. Hey, Hornatica. Oh, no. Critical fall in our Wild Beyond the Witchlight game. I don't know Wild Beyond the Witchlight very well, so I don't know the reference. Neat. I might have to hit you up for some images from that board game dream. I will harass you about that when we get there. I'm looking for a bucket. That's what I'm trying to do. Over here. There's my bucket. And aha, found you. But yeah, that's going to be super fun to build. It works. It works so well in Horde of the Dragon Queen. It was tempting to. Build it out for the first chapter when you're first level going into town greenest. But then Dragonlance happened. I'm like, oh yeah, well this is a no-brainer. We got to do it for Dragonlance. If it works for Greenest and Flames, it works for everything. It worked for Descent into Avernus as well. That was fun as hell. Gives you a reason to go sell your soul to gather troops. And when the the Kingdom Builder command options are complete for guilds and kingdom production, we'll be able to translate El Terrell into its command mechanics so that your characters can be in command of the entire city while you're fighting the Blood War, which is what anyone ever wants. Like that's like the golden goose of, I don't know if that's the right word. It's not even a standard. It's the dream to build out things to fight in the Blood War. And I haven't seen anything that directly translates into it since first edition, so I'm really happy about that. But yeah, Descent into Avernus is like the prize. After I get, assuming that the DMsGuild isn't completely deconstructed at that point, I still have the option to sell stuff somehow to whatever D&D fans are left. It is my absolute swan song to produce Descent into Avernus using all of these mechanics. Because it's the one campaign setting I think that really makes use of all those tools the best. So that's pretty exciting. I am legit excited about that. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if we'll still be welcome to build things for Wizards or not. And if not, we'll just move on to our own thing. Just look at it as an alternate possibility, an alternate world. Maybe next life I'll think of it faster, and I'll be in a different in a different iteration of this life, and I'll have the opportunity to finish it before we all get booted. I'm good with that. Free transform. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, that's the way. The floor is not tall. This is the way. Yeah. Thanks, man. I'm glad that you were able to show up for that stuff. It was fun. I think it's a worthy product. It is worth the time building out into something looking a little bit more professional. Just aesthetically, it's pleasing. So it'll be worth. It'll be a pain in the ass to build, but it'll be one hell of a swan song. So, but we'll see. It's on the bucket list. We'll see if I can pull it off or not. 'Cause God knows what's going to happen. Who knows? I could get cancer and die. Duplicate the layer, pushing it into the corner. Boop, 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 boop. Blip to the blop. Duplicate the layer. Flip horizontal now, baby. Still haven't decided if I like Yellowstone or not. It's 1882 and 1883 and yeah, that's it. 1883 and 1923. As I've gushed about those shows before, but they are worth gushing over because they are fucking great shows. Yellowstone just doesn't have the same writing skill that 1883 for certain. 1883 was fucking good. Heavily recommend that. Like that's I would say it's up there with Firefly. Like you should watch it. It's worth watching. It's good. But that looks pretty good. Oh yeah, I want to put some tack. Need some tack. Tack. Yeah. Yeah, let's get on there. I breathe a heavy sigh because what I have to do is saddles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Normally there'd be a tack and harness room where you could. There's basically these posts, sawhorses, basically, for lack of a better word. We had mounted brackets on the wall that had these like 3 feet long lips. Basically, it was like a cow tongue that was sturdy enough and anchored. It had good anchoring, so you could drop, a 20-pound saddle onto it, and it would just basically hang. But sawhorses work too. But they have to have their own. They have to have their own spacing and their own arrangements. So we need like cleaning tools, which I can prop up over here. And we need 1, 2, 3. Technically, this place doesn't need to have any saddles, but I wanted to have at least 2 sets of saddles and bridles. And then lead ropes and a shoeing kit in case the horse catches a stone. So those are the different pieces of gear that I need to make for this place. So I guess that is what I am going to commence. I'm going to drop the opacity on here. And go here. Thank you, Timely Timer. Ooh, yeah, I do need to take a sip. Thank you. Oh, that water is cold. So good. Yeah, these absolutely have to be mounted into the wall, though. Sawhorses actually make more sense, but because they're easier to do, there's less construction expense involved with it. So yeah, we may as well do that. You convinced me. I like the organization of the wall mounting because you can put additional tack underneath. Like a blanket for the horse if it's cold out, or canteens and stuff to be able to carry water for the horse if you need to. Just being able to stow that stuff underneath the saddle if it's hanging is super useful. But oh well, not a big thing. I'm just trying to think of ways to make the space a little bit more efficiently used, considering it's basically a walkway. But I don't think I really need to sweat those details too heavily. I really don't need to be sweating this detail. I'm just going to cover it with a fucking... Get after it. Finished Picard finally. That was enjoyable. Paramount was putting out the good stuff, man. 83-23 Picard. I think it has Quantum Leap. No, that might be Peacock. I need to double check that, but Quantum Leap is going to be back. It's going to be back on the menu. I was about to lose faith in it, but it started to get a little interesting. So I like how there's external politics. Like the original Quantum Leap, it was basically all it was Sam running around inside of somebody else's body solving, crime. It's doing Scooby-Doo shit, basically. And that was great, but this one now there's like different organizations that are trying to get access to the IPs that they're using with the quantum experiment. It's a thoroughly documented government experiment. So there's different organizations that are trying to take chunks of it for themselves as proprietary technology. So there's actually a lot going on in the modern day outside of the Leap that's really interesting. And they're already showing indications that there are other organizations using the same technology trying to come in and make changes to the political structure of stuff in the past so that they can get more advantageous positioning and wealth or whatever. Typical villain stuff, but they're really making a go with it, and it's to me it's welcome change. I am appreciating that. To me, it's cool world building. It's on point with how people feel about the government in general, and it's additional layers of stress and ticking clocks outside of whatever Sam's mystery is this week. It's an ongoing pressure cooker for the support staff while Sam is dealing with episodic stuff, jumping from body to body, righting wrongs and all the bloody-blahs. But he also has his own, he's starting to develop his own side agendas of things that he is trying to achieve inside of his own leaps to be able to build his own future. And then there's the organizational directives like, hey, you're in this time zone. I need you to check out X, Y, and Z. Yeah, go check out this grid square and let me know if there's anything there. What do they say? They always say, don't ask. So I don't ask. So as far as I'm concerned, if you find anything there, it's yours. That's the kind of conversation that you can have with Quantum Leap now. It's cool stuff. It is legitimately cool stuff. I definitely recommend. Duplicate this layer. We're going to flip horizontal now, baby. There. Hey, duplicato. Hey. What do we want to do? Like this. Best done. Well done. Take this back up to full, and then we'll do that. Saw Ant-Man and the Wasp over the weekend. Quantum Mania, tons of potential, poorly executed. I would say it was as lackluster as Wakanda Forever. Marvel is in a slump. It's not that they're trying to build momentum to whatever the next big thing is, which is obviously going to be Kang. Spoiler alert. Not that I'm a big comic book nerd. I just watch everything. Well, everything but She-Hulk. Honestly, I haven't watched a lot of the TV shows. Moon Knight kind of ruined the Marvel TV shows for me. Fuck all Moon Knight, man. What a horrible show that was. I was not a fan of Moon Knight. Don't get me on a tear about that thing. Oh my. Salty statements. Hardly. It's just, if it ties into a bigger thing, I honestly don't care. They need to have a strong, charismatic lead character to replace Tony Stark that can start building some charisma. Guardians of the Galaxy is too it's too Three Stooges ish. You know, it doesn't take itself seriously enough to be something that you can hang a franchise on. And they haven't identified. And like Thor's slapstick too, and so there's no strong leader character to start building the next thing around. Like Loki's not a leader. They have a bunch of oddballs, and rabble rousers is basically what their cast of characters is right now, and it's just, it isn't jiving. So. In my most humble of opinions. There you go, buddy. I do like that. This calls for another bucket. Gonna put him in a bucket. Gonna put him in a bucket. Bucket, gonna put him in a bucket. Bucket, in a bucket. It's a good sized bucket. My bucket. Where am I at? I am totally lost right now. Thank you. That is the way. Let's do like, come on, buddy. Thank you. Nope. I'm trying to get you to skew, my dude. Thank you. Like that. Nope. Wrong way, Kenny. Nope. Oh yeah, buckets at the top. So, a bunch of oddballs and rebel rousers sounds like an Avengers cast has evolved into a D&D party. Yeah, totally. I mean, that's basically what Guardians of the Galaxy is now. It's basically just a D&D team that drinks a lot and like has 90% of the game spent in the shenanigans tier of play. So just causing trouble and making the DM angry that they even bother creating plot lines and villains with backstories. It's like, well, honestly, you shouldn't. That's on you, buddy. You should have known better. No one gives a crap about your heroes or your villains. The heroes you'll never get to play forever, DM. Suffer your silence, no one cares about your pain. The secret, I find, to good long-term campaigns is to never give a crap about any challenge that you put before the players, and it always leads to something worse. Like them winning is great news for you as a DM because it means you get to unleash this next thing. Like the only thing is like spoiler alert for Ant-Man. It's like 3, 2, 1. It's like when the king they killed was like, you needed me to keep the bad ones away. They're like, oh, who are the bad ones? And it has the after credit thing where there's a bunch of really bad kings. It's like, oh, that guy's dead. Awesome. Let's mess this place up. Like that's DMing right there. Like you want to have just a, like you can't wait for them to kill the most recent villain because you've got all these other cool villains that you hope last 2 or 3 rounds against the players when they face off against them. But even that doesn't matter because there's like 5 more lined up behind him. Boom, 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 boom. Just like. Yes, like that. That is the perspective that I've been looking for. Bop. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry about the garbage. I love how in the Fifth Element they laid off all the garbage workers, so for the rest of the film there's just garbage everywhere. It's so fucking great. It's such a like a little random element, pardon the pun, but I love that. So way too much time on these shovels. Yeah, gave way too much of a shit about that. What's next I can waste a little bit more time on? Let's see. Gotta have some rope. I feel like this is just wrong. There's another one here. Yeah, I want to drop that down to 3 pixels. Better. That went sideways quickly. Let's see. Shoe file. Get a little prong to get in there to be able to basically ratchet out any stones that get caught underneath the shoe. Random Folded blanket. Anything else I feel compelled? Nah, that's good enough for there. So then the next one we have is the... Where's my other table? Dime la gracias. Can you think of any tools a caretaker would want on hand here in a D&D world, but not in a real-world classic barn? Can I think of any tools a caretaker would want on hand here in a D&D world, but not in a real-world classic barn? Like, what equipment or gear would be in a fantasy world barn setting that wouldn't be in a mundane real-world barn setting? Bug zapper. That's probably the lowest hanging fruit. I mean, that's a modern day, like a lot of modern day conveniences you could cheat, you know, into fantasy stuff. But like if we're talking like a griffin aviary, where you've got flying mounts or other things, then your attack and harness is going to be more complicated, because you're going to have like in How to Train Your Dragon, you have to have straps and things in place to keep you from getting dumped out of your saddle. But if it's more just horsey stuff, I think the scent, horse scent, has a big impact on how horses work in general. So if we're talking about horses in a stable but having access to like magic and stuff, pheromones can control the actions and movements of horses pretty well. Like if I have the scent of horses in mating season going in that direction, then I'm going to motivate the lead stallion, the alpha stallion of the herd, to head in that direction, and that's going to cause the rest of the horses to move with them. So you can do a lot of aromatic control of where horses are moving potentially that way. They don't do that in real life, but in the real world, it's still just easiest to hook them with a rope and pull them, and the rest of that herd will go. But if we're talking about fantastic creatures that are dangerous that you don't necessarily want to get that close to, then stuff like that could work. I was talking about with bug zappers before, considering demonic influences, maybe some sort of warding that keeps spirits that would infect animals with trouble. I don't know. It's a great question, though. What am I doing over here? Oh, yeah. I wanted to make sacks of grain. You don't have to make sacks of grain for the storage house anyway, so I may as well build some out now. Don't necessarily know what they're supposed to look like. This starts to get into that conversation, that debate about symbols versus realistic rendering of objects. Like when you're doing a map, how useful is it for you to render each object accurately, like visually accurately, versus creating shorthand forms of symbols that look like icons on a map, you know? Like I've got kind of a mix of things that skews towards realism but I'm trying to keep the line language simple so it feels iconic. As in an icon, you know, not as in like this is like the definitive saddle, or this is the definitive sack of grain that I'm creating. No, I just meant as a icon on the map. Is it something that's presentable, and does it just lead to the audience to grok what it is that we're looking at? But having this here will make a lot more sense when there's a whole storehouse here full of similar bags of grain. So it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I don't think a bug zap would be. No, it wouldn't. Not for Eberron. I think that's on point. The one shot adventure that I ran for Babies with Knives, they do live streams of different role-playing games and mechanics. They haven't done anything for a while, but back at the time when I created the color mana system, they invited me to run a game as a DM with some random developers that were interested in checking it out. So they had a roster of developers and designers that would occasionally get to showcase their own stuff, but made themselves available as playtesters to do like these little one-shot things where you build characters with the creator of the content, and then the creator runs a game the way that the creator feels like, you know, it would best showcase the mechanics or whatever game system it is that they built. It's called Babies with Knives, and cool folks. But I ran a 6th level color mana one shot where all the players had characters that used mana in one mechanic or another, and it was the Eberron setting, and it was for this side adventure that I'm interested in publishing at some point about a temple at the top of a frozen volcano that gets raided by these warlocks, and so the thought. Where was I going with this? Hold on. Oh yeah, the point is that the way that I had it set up is that since monks gain ki on a short rest, they could go from like station to station in these towns, in these remote towns. Like they could spend an hour or two walking to a location and then dump their point of ki or two into a location that would then power the mana battery that would provide heat and light for the location. So monks became, in a game that has mana as its core magic resource, and if you have a short rest character like that, they become a living battery that serves the community as civics, as a civic position, as a government sponsored temple. Basically, like these traditions of monks are supported by every community, because every community benefits from having a living mana battery whose job it is basically to be really good at unarmed combat, to be able to work with non-lethal damage if necessary, have magical aptitude, can provide fuel to the community, and each time he goes to a place, he's basically patrolling the community. So you have two monks that are rolling together. They can basically provide sparks of light for like lighting lampposts and stuff along the way. But like when they get to like a building like a housing complex, they can just spend a few moments charging the battery, take a short rest while they're there, or take a short rest while they're moseying to the next location. So you can have a pretty broad community that over the course of a day, you could have 2 or 3 monks rotating through the community. That means that you could support a small temple of like maybe 10, 12 monks that also provides school and discipline education to the students that were there, the kids in the community that will inevitably during the war grow up and become soldiers. So they had this martial training built into them from the beginning that's kind of the culture that I imagine for Eberron anyway. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but that's my Eberron. So, but Eberron is such a great setting that you can build like you can build something like that. It's like, yeah, that actually, yeah, I can see Eberron doing something like that because it makes sense. It's just what tools are you using inside of your game. Like, I think the idea of like having Pathfinder or like Rollmaster or another game system, like I use Cypher inside of Eberron for a while, and that's fucking fun because Eberron is such an ancient culture, Indiana Jones land like artifact grab sort of game that having ciphers as just stray magic that's just laying around the world, it just makes sense. so you can just use ciphers as is, just with a Magitech bend to it. And we deep dived into it because that was our Mecha campaign where the team was attempting to. It was the first part. That's right. It was the first part of that campaign. We shifted into 5th edition while during the site. Like, there is no real end to a Cypher system campaign. It's like you can just keep accumulating artifacts and skills and stuff. Like you gain a cap on your stats and your proficiency, but you can gain any number of bonus features and optional powers and stuff by just continuing to spend experience points on them. So you don't really ever end a Cypher game. You just kind of give up on it, So we gave up on our game when we decided to get into 5th edition, and it was but it started off as the team were playing Warforged that were trying to find abandoned Warforged resources so they could build a mercenary guild out of abandoned tech, like giant war machines, titans, variant scout mecha, and it was Cypher. So there was a Disney like Disney's Atlantis sort of technologies is kind of the level that I have my Eberron in general, and so they're picking up like hover tanks after a while, and like they're going into these AI controlled bunker complexes. It's like, God, if we can bust this bunker and take control of this AI, then we're going to have an ally that can help us map the surrounding region for us to find any other abandoned tech, and it might be able to get a signal off of anything that's been stranded. So they would be incentivized to go in and try to like negotiate with the AI system while trying to fight their way through its defenses to get close enough for them to be able to hack it, to be able to get into a conversation, to charm it and switch its mind so they can make suggestions to shut down, disarm, and trust us, treat it like a legitimate friend, and then gain access to that bunker as a place where they can take rests and get more information. It's like, hey, put out a ping and see what you get back, and keep pinging every day and let us know when something changes. So they have these bunkers that started working for them to be able to find the next piece of tech that they can go try to hunt. But Cypher is fucking great for that kind of a campaign. And then when we switched over to 5th edition, then we Warforged character in the party along with a paladin and blah blah. But anyway, it was Warforged, and they were at that point trying to help awaken all of the Warforged and AIs that were bound into these machines, to help them remember what their true spirits were, whether they're a human or a creature or otherworldly being. They lose their memory when they come into the shell of the Warforged. So they become basically amnesiac and susceptible to whatever they're told that their purpose was, until they start fighting it. They go along with it, which is great if they're just going to get killed and if it's going to get torn apart in a conflict in 3 months, that'll be faster than they can figure out what's going on. The machine gets scrapped, the spirit dissipates, they build a new one, they insert a new spirit. Could be the same spirit, doesn't know anything that's going on, and after a while it starts having weird dollhouse-like flashes. I'm a big fan of Joss Whedon's Dollhouse. That was a very cool show, and I didn't really think about the parallels though there, and literally until just now. But they if it's a recycled soul that would go back into more bodies and start becoming schizophrenic about who am I really, and that's what they could use to trigger it becoming aware that you were something before this. Let us help you remember that. It was a fucking great campaign. Just a great fucking campaign. And I really want to, that's what really inspires me to want to build the Warforged supplement that I want to build, whether it's going to be 5e or it'll be something, whether it'll be D&D, Eberron, or it'll just be some like Warmech TM separate piece is just a 5e general thing. Well, we'll see. But that's down the line. That's something I would love to do. Cypher's fun, man. It is really open story. You can, the goal of the players is to build up enough in-game bonuses and bullshit logic to drive down the DC, like the difficulty class of the, it's a scale of 1 to 10 basically, is where you're scaling. And if you can get the difficulty down to 0, then you don't have to make a roll at all. If it's like 1 to 10, it's like it's like every 3. It's like a 3, 6, 9, 12 on a 20-sided die is what you have to roll. And the further down you can drive, like, so if it's a 10, you have to roll a natural 20. It's like almost impossible. But high-level characters have so much bullshit and gear and skills that they've purchased XP for, and so much shenanigans from their character stories that they can BS their way down to drive like a 10 out of 10 difficulty, potentially push it down to like a 6. So it becomes like all I got is like I only have to roll, I only have to like roll a 12 on that. So it's it gets pretty easy for them after a while, and but that's like a high level character. So you're basically building events and experiences and conversation opportunities from a GM perspective. You're building these opportunities for the characters to interact with the world or the creatures inside of it, either through combat or trade to acquire new gear that can give them different types of bonuses and different opportunities to cheat down the difficulty of different types of challenges. Like if I have like an invisibility matrix that I can clip to something and it becomes invisible, it gets really easy for me to stealth around or attach it to something that I don't want to be noticed. But it's going to burn out after a use or two. Well, maybe I start dumping experience points into making this piece of gear work more than once. And if it becomes an artifact, it's something I can control a number of times per day, and it's a permanent item that becomes part of my gear set. Or I could spend, like, I could learn a new, learn a new quick skill. I could become more clever or something, stuff like that. So it's a really flexible system, and it's very driven to narration. You could be able to build heist games with it pretty easily. It's a cool system. I really, really encourage you exploring it if it's interesting to you. Especially if you rotate through different groups a lot. It's as lighthearted or as serious as you want to make it. It can be any genre of story, but if you think about it as like a TV show, like what kind of a show are you playing? I think that's a really great way to be able to kind of set up your thoughts about like, what's my Cypher game like? Like is it like Airwolf or Knight Rider, or is it more Charlie's Angels, or is it Saved by the Bell? So like, how do you want your game to play? And Cypher can pull it off. To me, the reason why I'm not continuing to play it and I switched to 5e is because once you kind of figure that out, it all kind of feels same. It's all samey. Like once you get your optimizations down, you know how you want to play your characters on a team. You can really just optimize into getting a lot of advantage on die rolls, and it doesn't, like, if you stay in your lane, it's not challenging. So the DM can try to push you into other areas, but it's just a matter of time of staying in that area, that genre, that location against that type of an enemy, and you eventually get good at beating them, and then you move on to the next thing. So, I don't know. It has a lot of mechanical depth, but it kind of, at the same time, there's not a lot to it. It doesn't feel like there's actually a lot there. So, I kind of got bored with it. it's a cool system, but it's just after a while it just kind of feels the same. So it really, at that point, really falls on the strength of the narrative and how engaged are the players with the storyline, how compelling is the different challenges that exist, how interesting are the characters. Because your goal is the goal of the game is to drive your die down so you don't have to roll it. Like you're attempting, like winning at Cypher is like making the game unfun. You know, like if throwing dice and having chance and all that stuff is your cup of tea, Cypher is actively attempting to disengage that. So that's yeah, it feels like that's what I would say. It's at the core of it. I feel like it's fighting itself. Yeah, there you go. I wish I had something more flattering to say. That's just kind of how it reads. Anyone is welcome to come at me, bro. I do this. Hey, Tyler. Oh my god, yeah, play by post would be amazing. Because if you can drive down the advantage, you don't have to worry about the die roll. You can just start calling the shots and the incursions, which are like the critical failures. I still have at least 20 minutes, so we're doing good. Incursions are like the result of a critical failure. The DM basically just like ups the stakes. Like if it was a DC 4, now it's a DC 5, and here's the bullshit that goes on behind it. It can be a drag. If it's short and sweet, I think it's good if you have like a lot of creative energy among your team. There's a lot of people that are really good at improvisation. I think that works. I think that's a really, really good system for it. But you have to have a team that likes the narrative and likes improv, you know? And isn't so concerned about mechanics. Like I like crunchy mechanics. And Cypher is soft. It's like a soft system. Like I said, it's designed. It's like you're winning Cypher if you don't have to roll dice. I like rolling dice because I'm really good at bending advantages. Like I'm really good at backgammon. I can throw dice, so I want to throw dice. I love it. It's the miracle of rolling what you absolutely had to roll it, and there's no chance, but you roll it anyway. Like D&D narrates that for you. Like in backgammon, you're just pushing pips, and it's just basically you chuckling at your opponent that you're able to roll that 4-6 that you needed, you know, and you knew it was coming down the pipe like 2 rolls ago, so you started bending your dice positioning to take advantage of a 4-6 roll because you knew it was coming. Like that's what backgammon's like when you get really into backgammon. And D&D particularly the D20 system in particular. Since it has that like everything revolves around that one die, you can really evolve your connection to a D20 mechanic and really get into feeling the probabilities of how the dice move. Since it's that one die that you really need to pay attention to, just quantum movement of die rolls with a D20 just feels good after a while. And man, I like why would I not want to fuck with that game, like the game at that level? And like Cypher doesn't want you to do that. Dice pool games are fun like that too. Like when you can feel the probabilities of dice and you can just grab a fistful of them and throw them, knowing that you're going to hit at least like 2 or 3 of that number. Like you can just feel you're going to hit that number. Love that. It just feels so alive. It's so fun. Trying to make piles of grain here. I think I'm pseudo successful for this task. What? I didn't want to bind them. I wanted to duplicate them. Thanks, boss. Do that. Flip. Nah, that's too obvious. Let's do like that. grab this one. Duplicate that one. And duplicate it again. I like how that overlaps. That's cool. I'm gonna mess with that a little bit more. A lot of bags on the ground. It's gonna piss me off pretty quickly. I feel like I'm missing text. Get out of here. Fudge. Yes. There. Very good. Very good. Let's see. Boom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Duplicate. Push that one. Like that. But he's mute, so he runs live text and PvP. Oh, fascinating. I was a mod at RPG Crossroads, which used to be, fuck, I can't believe I can't remember its name anymore. Anyway, it was a massive play-by-post site. I was running 3 campaigns, using 3rd edition for Eberron. And I was there so frequently that they asked if I'd be a mod and oversee the Eberron channels, and that's where I spent so much time hanging out on play-by-post forums. It's play-by-post is fun. It is I don't have time for it. It's just all where is it? Thank you, Jesus. Stack sucks. Stack of shit. We're going to duplicate that layer. There we go. Wait. Where's the other one? Nope. Oh well, fuck it. Duplicate. Free transform. Duplicate. There. Should be fine. Let's make long form rather than short form. He saves the short form for his live text games. Yeah, right on. I liked structuring. I like how play-by-post allows players to directly engage each other in ongoing sidebar conversations, like an ongoing philosophical or like opinion debate about just some random topic and character. Just like have like an ongoing banter channel, and then have your live channel, and then breaking, like as a DM, I like to break them up sequentially from one character to the next about how the camera would pan across the scene. So I would play out resolution of actions by this panning effect, by like what's the next thing you see, and then what do you see, and it would lead into each other's actions, reactions, resolutions. And then I get to the end of the round, and then it would be their turn, and they would basically post what they wanted to do in whatever order it was, and then they describe what they PvP as players do, and then when they finish all that, I then get to reprocess it all and then do that pan again. It was a lot of fun. It was slow going. It was a very long form, but God, it was a lot of fun. It is a really just. I think it's worth any DM that really wants to take his craft seriously. I would strongly recommend participating in PvP for at least 6 months, just to be consistent with it, like at least once a week for 6 months, or like if you have like a daily game, or like one of those games like you can post as fast as we can post as often as we want, as long as everyone posts once, and then you get a lot of people that are on board that can post like at least every 48 hours, and you can have like a really fast moving banter campaign. And I love play by post because if you have people that are moving at different speeds, you can have banter threads to keep those that are hyper involved to keep pushing their character forward, and the DM can start leaning on them for different inside plot points and to help drive different narratives and to set up the next story points. It's just, oh God, I love it. I don't have the capacity for it anymore, but when I did, I just loved it. I was addicted to play by post. Just loved it. Yeah, right on. It's so much easier than going to a session-based game. Yeah. I love sessions because I like the interaction, and it is a social game after all. So I appreciate that the most. Yeah, but PvP is its own creature, man. There's no wrong way. I was about to say there's no wrong way to RP, but I am not a fan of live action. I do not like LARPing. I am not a big. I've done World of Darkness live RP, and it's just. Ugh. It felt. I don't know. That it was. I was probably in too much of a hipsters group for me to appreciate the delicate nuances of their conversation points. But I wanted to play Guru, and I just wanted to throw bombs at stuff and punch shit. So I mean, it wasn't my crowd. You really gotta know your audience. So, and in this instance, I certainly did not. So that was probably my own fault. I'm going to rotate 180. Stack of hay, grain. Where'd my bucket go? Thank you. Bucket. Thank you, bucket. There we go. So that is our stables. Last check for anything that I just want. Nah, you know what? I think I'm happy with that. Cool. All right, let's put the lid on it. Put a lock on it. And let's go to the smithy. My bucket! That's the walrus in me. I can't help it. I'm always losing my bucket. Where's my bucket? BW. This will be the stuff drawer. Let's make an anvil. No. Why are you locked up like that? Thank you. Transform. I've had my monitor is spontaneously turned off twice today. And I'm really hoping it's because I, for some reason, decided to set the idle time for turning off my monitor to be 30 minutes. And so I'm really hoping that having changed that setting back, that's the end of that problem. But that was freaky deaky. The fan that I bought and had Best Buy swap out for me is working beautifully, by the way. It's those guys are just champions. Geek Squad forever, yo. I'm a big Best Buy fan. They just treat me right. Always have. Thank you. It's a little wider. Yeah, no, that's not right. Hey, duplicato. Transform. Flip horizontal a bit. Yeah. Any tips for beginners who want to create their own D&D content? Hey, Everson. How are you? I don't know if you've been here before. Well met, and I'm glad you're here. Stick around. So, any tips? Content. What do you mean by content? Are you player focusing or are you DM focusing? Are you mechanically driven or narratively driven? Are you looking to explore new mechanics, or are you just trying to create new magic items, weapons, spells, subclasses, character classes, races, backgrounds, feats? Lots of different ways. Content means a lot, so I don't mean to be flippant. But I definitely have opinions. I have lots of opinions because I built all these things. And I've done everything from alternate spellcasting systems, magic items, spells, gear, creatures, weapons, subclasses, backgrounds. Honestly, I think the only thing I haven't created is race. I don't think I've created my own, whatever the fuck we're calling it these days. I'm in the process of creating a cooling rack. Oh, right on, my guy. Welcome to the mix. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you. So mechanics. Okay, so what's your inspiration? Well, you subscribe to my channel. You probably know that I am like super deep into new mechanics for 5e. Like 5e mechanics is my jam. If I want to narrate something some way, chances are I'm going to build a system around it to express that thing. Let's duplicate that layer. Go like that, and then that, then nope, not like that. That feels right. Like this. Hopefully my spacing is still good. Duplicate the layer now, baby. Okay, so yeah, the first question, the first step to creating a new app is to find out what is that app supposed to do. So if we think like Jerry, and when we want to make an app, new mechanics in 5e is basically a new app. It plugs into the core D20 mechanical system, and it does a thing. It either does a new thing that the game can't currently do, or it utilizes different mechanics to achieve this a thing that exists, but you're now creating a new way to do it. So you're trying to modify Red Dead Redemption into a system. However, I am not really sure how to adjust the exhaustion mechanics. So you're trying to do a resource refresh system without using the short rest, long rest mechanics. And am I reading this conversation correctly? That is almost accurate. Perfect. It is 9 o'clock, so I am almost out of time. I'm going to give myself another 15 minutes instead of 20. What other game systems are you familiar with already? Sometimes finding an answer is a matter of finding something somewhere else that's already done something similar. So, like for example, here's something that I have in the Spelljammer book that I created. Is that for you to be able to fire, you as a character can use your action economy to command a squad of creatures to load, aim, and fire, and then reload a weapon. A siege weapon, like a ballista, a mangonel, whatever. Basically at the same rate, like if I have 2 attacks per round, I can order 2 siege weapon attacks if the team is capable of aiming, firing, and then efficiently reloading the weapon so that I can order them to fire it again. And then if they aim, fire, and then reload the weapon efficiently again, I could use it for a reaction attack of some sort if an opportunity were to arise. The mechanic that I use to control that action economy of whether they're able to efficiently reload the weapon or not is by using a proficiency die. At first level, it's a D4 instead of a +2 proficiency bonus. It's a D4. At 5th level, instead of a +3 bonus, it's a D6. So my proficiency can waver anywhere from from a +1 to a +6 on my die roll at 5th level. So I can either spike really hard and hit a miracle and do something I shouldn't normally be able to do, or I can completely fuck up and hit like super low. Aside from natural 1ing on the die 20 and then natural 1ing on my D6. Then it's basically, well, how smart was I? Like a +4 my 18 intelligence. That's only a 6 on my die roll. But it could have been a 30. The 6-sider, the +4 intelligence, and the natural 20 on the 20-sided die. I could have hit a natural 30 on my results using that proficiency die. That proficiency die for the siege weapons, depending on how large of a die it is that the siege weapon deals, sets the number you have to roll on your proficiency die. So if like a mangonel, for instance, it does D6 times 10 damage when it hits with a stone. It has a reload score of 5. So if on my command die or my proficiency die as a commander, if when I command my crew to aim, fire, and reload, if I roll a 5 or above on my command die, then I can have the crew reload and fire that weapon again. If they don't hit that 5 on the command die, then they have to spend either a reaction or a bonus action or an action. They have to spend action economy from somewhere else. Or another teammate can spend their reaction to help your team reload. So you can fire the weapons multiple times per round. Or if you have multiple turrets on your ship, you could have multiple weapons firing in tandem with each other, but then you're going to increase your reload die because you're firing more than one weapon at once. Now you have to spend extra time making sure everyone lines up their next shots. That's commanded by the higher rank of your crew. They get to drop the number that you have to roll on your command dice. So like a ballista would normally have a reload score of 3. But if you have a second rank crew, which is basically anyone that's been in combat like say 50 times and has survived that fight, or is a CR2 creature, is a second rank creature. And if you have a crew of second rank creatures manning a ballista, they can drop the score by 2. So the ballista now has a reload score of 1, which means that on a command die, you're always going to roll a 1. So as your team gets more proficient, or your ranking, your character level increases, it becomes easier for you to hit the reload number for you to be able to refresh automatically. That's like one very specific example of how you can have a resource system that's controlled by the proficiency or skill of a team that isn't reliant on any resources at all. It's the tempo in which you're able to perform this task. It's kind of like a recharge die on a dragon breath. One of the mechanics I have in the mass combat system is as your character gains ranks as a commander, if you have a creature with a recharge die, you'll roll your command die, not a d6. So by the time you get to 9th level and you're rolling a d8, your dragon is going to be able to refresh his breath on a 6, 7, or 8 instead of a 6 on a d6. It's now just a 6. And by the time you get up to 20th level with a d12, then it's really easy for you to get your dragon to reload their breath using those same recharge mechanics, basically, that a ballista would use. So you can use that recharge mechanic and combine it with your proficiency die mechanic, and now you have a proficiency system that dictates how quickly you can refresh like an ultimate ability. Like if you're doing like a dragoon or something and you want to do a pounce attack, that pounce attack may have a maneuver, like it may be a second or third rank maneuver. So you'd have to roll a 2 or a 3 on your maneuver die. And if you roll that number or higher, then it refreshes. Otherwise, you might have to spend like a bonus action to get access to one of your maneuvers again. So you can have pick and choose action economy using that sort of a system. You set up what kind of a die you use to resolve for resolution. And in this system, the reload die is all, or the recharge die is also your proficiency die. So it's doing 2 things at once. So it's not just an extra die that you have to fuck around with. It's like, no, that die is doing shit for you. Like it's reloading things for you, and it's allowing you to hit higher than you normally be able to hit at the cost of potentially fucking up and having to spend extra action economy as a result of fucking up, having to get your crew back into rhythm so they can keep doing stuff, or recruit another player for them to spend their action economy to help your team keep in tempo so you can keep firing consistently each round. So that's a super hyper specific example of how to create and use resources that don't rely on time, if that makes sense. So it's really just a matter of how do you want to pace your exhaustion mechanics behind being able to do different things. Like every time you do something, it could increase, in this example, it could increase the DC of your recharge. So if you don't give yourself a rest to refresh your pool, then you're going to have higher and higher results that you have to keep rolling. This could also be like a proficiency thing, like a direct attack roll, like anything above like a 20, like a 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 on the die roll. And at 18th level, your character's throwing around like, plus 16 to hit. So you're going to be rocking anywhere from like a 15 to a 35. If that 5, 10, 15, 20 tempo means something, it's pretty easy for you to keep track of. Is it a 5 or a 0? Like that's binary enough that your brain can wrap around that as a mechanic. So, yeah. So yeah, go for it, man. I use those are mechanics that I use in my stuff. So, yeah. If that stuff sounds cool to you, then my shit makes sense to you, and maybe you'll enjoy it. So, I use a mana system for all the martial powers stuff, but when I leave 5th edition, I'll probably really lean into that die roll recharge mechanic for like everything, like a wizard if they want to use a high magic spell like level 6 plus. It would be like you can roll every time you take a short rest. You can roll a refresh. You can roll a rest die, and whatever the result on your resting die is the level of like maybe the level of spell that you can refresh, so that your team is motivated to take short rests, because your wizard might get a really good spell back if you roll like a 9, like if you're 17th level and you're rolling a d12 and you roll a 9 or above, you can get your 9th level spell slot back, and then you just ratchet back what a 9th level spell does exactly, so it's not overpowering. It's just really nice to get it. You can lean into a lot of the 4E power structure to get like high level stuff. You can steal from 4E really easily using something like that. Like your dailies are like 7, 8, 9, 10. Your per encounter would be like a 4, 5, 6, 7. And like your per round or like your at will stuff is either at will or is like 1, 2, 3 if you ratchet it up or something like that. I want to do an extra 5 dice of damage on this attack. Was going to add 10 to your refresh. It's just a simple stab, so it has a refresh of 1. But I cranked it up 10 dice. So now it has a reload score of 11. And if I'm a 7th level character, that's beyond my capacity. I can't do that much. I can only do like 4 extra, like maybe 2 extra dice of damage at that level. So I can self-control myself over how much meta magic am I dumping into this to modify my attack. And before it caps out on my ability to reload, knowing that if I miss the die roll, I'm done attacking and I'm done for the round. So I could have as many actions as I want that I can roll out, like maybe up to like 3 or 4 actions, for instance. So action like Pathfinder using a recharge die. You have up to 3 actions if you can hit all your marks. Otherwise, you're done. Like that's high risk reward kind of crap. Like I'm going to do this thing. It's going to take. And it's going to eat 8, and I only roll an 8-sided die right now, so it's almost impossible that I'm going to do that. That would basically be like a 3-task, like a 3-task action in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Like you can par them, you can compare things like apples to apples in that manner, but then convert the game from 3 actions into exhaust system resources. So anyway, there's that. Like, if that makes you think about anything, that's what the Muse told me to say. So hopefully that has some sort of value to you. But it might be a direction that is fun for you to explore. So that's like one specific example that I think is super cool, because that's what I did for siege weapons, you know. So that recharge mechanic, and for command in the command system for the Dragonlance campaign that I'm going to do. Commanding dragons, you have the ability to use your command die to refresh their breath weapon more often. Like literally, it's Dragonlance. You're flying dragons. So like, I have all the mechanics for flying a 300-foot long dragon to smash a castle with that dragon. Like I've got the mechanics for that. I'm looking forward to sharing them with you when we get into the campaign. So, but that'll be like maybe September. I'm hoping September. I'm hoping that's the timing there. That. Yeah, that's fucking hardcore. Fucking hardcore. It is. I am super looking forward to it. Like the first encounter in Dragonlance is like that mock battle as a celebration. What an easy way to break people into the 5e mass combat mechanics that we built. It's like, yeah, do this. And then like three rounds in, it turns serious, right? Because that's, you know, spoiler alerts, that's the intro to the first challenge of the campaign is this like crazy stealth ambush thing that happens during these games that you're supposed to be playing. But it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. And then having a platoon that's constantly running around with you, so you have this pool of resources to be able to perform different tasks with, like to do scouting missions, to scout out nearby squares of area, and to like forage for things or whatever it is. But like to lean into that, I've got a crew of people. What do I want them to do? Like, it's fucking cool stuff like that. Super cool. Let's make some knickknacks here, I think. I've got a few minutes left, right? But it'll be a super heavy lift. It's not the only thing I have on my plate, but it's the that is by far the biggest project I will ever do, I'm sure. Well, I say that now, and then God knows, like 2 years from now, I make a 400-page RPG. But that's what's great about 5e. It's really great training wheels for you to get mechanical chops. Like, how do you want to say things, and like, how do you work with people? What do you like? What kind of interactions do you like with your editors? Do you need an art director? If you do, what kind of art do you jive with? I'm ridiculously lucky that I started as an illustrator that backed into becoming a designer. So I've got admittedly a huge pool of resources and skill that I can lean into to produce things exactly the way that I want them to look. So it's like the whole project becomes an art piece for me, and I can make it all, like, if I do a good job, it all works with each other. So I can hopefully like create really interesting, unique pieces for people, and that's a really huge advantage that I have. But people that didn't have that blessing have to figure out how to work well with people, or how to gain, or like how to find the assets that you need to be able to complete a project. Otherwise, it's gonna, if it doesn't have that polish to it, like, are you trying to make money with it, or is it just something for fun? And I'm always thinking about the dollars, because I've been a freelance illustrator for decades. So I always think about how much what is this going to convert into, and who am I building leverage with by collaborating on this particular project or whatever. So it's thinking about that networking is actually really important when you look at this as like an industry. So, and I'm horrible about it because I'm always burning bridges and throwing shade at things. Someday I'll learn, I'm sure. Some random junk over here, I guess. I know I'm supposed to be exiting stage left right now, but honestly, I'm having a lot of fun. So I'm just kind of hanging out. But honestly, when I hang up this channel for the night, I'm just going to be doing the more boring Spelljammer NPC tokens, like commoners, slave crew member, boring crap, like super boring crap like that, and trying to stay focused on the more interesting NPCs to illustrate. Like when the camera's live, I should be doing interesting stuff. I'm blessed that I'm rambling on forever tonight to talk smack in days of yore, which is, I guess, kind of interesting. There, just knickknacks all over the place. I spy with my eye something beginning with text. But when the Eberron, once Spelljammer's off my plate and the Eberron edits are done, these maps will be done, and then I'll be going through the token process of creating all the tokens for all the creatures and NPCs that are in the Eberron adventure, and then once we start working on the layouts for all the book, and we'll see where all the pockets are, then I can do like location illustrations and like interaction illustrations and like item illustrations for all the neat stuff that we introduce into the adventure. So I'm really looking forward to that, like a lot. This is really gonna be fucking fun. What generation is Forrest Gump from? Yeah. Jenny. That's a good one, Ty. Oh, what do you call it? I can do magic. I do not know. You gotta just give us the answers. No one's gonna guess. Plus, I don't want to deprive you, because that's the best part. Like, if I actually did know the answer, I wouldn't say I did. But I legitimately don't know the answer to that one. A Labracadabrador. That's as good as that's as good as Labra. God, I can't remember what. I think it was Nissan. Was it a fucking Nissan commercial about the little Chihuahua with a Labrador head? So like had a tiny little body. The head was twice the size of the body. And it was angry. It was so angry. It was so angry. It was great. Like Sarah, it like ate Sarah McLachlan's guitar. Fucking great. That is by far one of that and the Nutrisystem Feel Great commercials are the two great commercials of humanity. If aliens were to scoop me up and have me prove what on television makes us a worthy species, I would show them those two commercials because they are fucking funny. And if aliens can't laugh, then fuck you. So, but God, if you don't know Nutrisystem Feels Great, that commercial is legendary. Oh my God. So fucking good. So good. Oh man, what am I doing? Tongs. Do like that. Bum. Here, random tools. Put the roof back on. Lock it. Going to the grist mill. Grist mill. Did I miss something? Feel great. Other than bags of grain, I don't think I have much going on in here. So grain in here, and I believe we already resolved the lumber mill, right? Yeah, we already got gear in the lumber mill. Cool. So we can lock that one up. Nice. So I'm going to let go from here. When we come back, we're going to put a shitload of piles of grain in the grist mill and the storage, but we already have the basic format of grain here in the stable that we spent some time building out. So basically we just get to make 1 million of these and stack them up in piles. So stay tuned for that, folks. If I can get through that, maybe I'll do that off screen. I doubt I'm going to do it off screen, to be honest. I'll probably end up doing that on Thursday. But yeah, so what we want to do is we want to fill the storage bin, this grist mill, and the storage barn with bags of grain and vegetables. Basically, is what we're doing. That's the lumber mill is basically done, so I'm good with that. So just these two buildings, using stuff from this building, shouldn't be too difficult. It's just going to take some time. And then hopefully we start murdering this place. That is the next goal, is to bloody the place up after the zombies kill everybody here. so we can knock everything around, make this place a mess, and make this place a mess, and put in giant splotches of blood and stuff like that in black. And then we'll come back and we'll start colorizing everything. So that'll be our task. So this is coming along. This is coming along really nicely. I finished fixing the water. I still have to put some stairways into the underground facility, but I finished I revised the water, so I need to update the flooded fort map with the revised tunnel water, and I also need to figure out footprints for Lotharia vulpina, the poisonous gas that causes a stinking cloud effect in the 5-foot space that the fungus. If you step on the fungus, it basically releases a stinking cloud effect on you that undead are conveniently immune to, but can take out your action because you're throwing up for the round. So Constitution 13 is not difficult, but it'll get you occasionally, and the shit's everywhere. So I need to build little map tokens or some way to express the vulpina on in the flooded maps on the manifest zone areas where the stuff grows naturally, unnaturally. Sorry, I'm listing at you, and I have some and we have some small dungeon vignettes, like 2-room dungeon type things that I need to illustrate. That should be considerably easier than any of these other. We start with the worst map, and we've been working our way down to the easiest. So that's the way to go to keep yourself from being too fatigued. Tackle the biggest problem as fast as you can. Engage with it, figure it out, use it to create more works that are smaller and easier. And as you keep building your library of more and more work that are smaller and smaller in difficulty, it just gets easier and easier for you to do the smaller pieces. It's just like, oh yeah, this is nothing compared to that other one. You just crack it out. Like you've been seeing, we've been cracking these out pretty efficiently. So, man, that's it for tonight. I'm going to be back in about less than 9 hours to do some more Spelljammer NPC tokens. We'll be back doing this on Thursday night. Oh God, tomorrow's Tuesday. I think I have martial powers tomorrow. We'll be developing the Arcane Archer. We'll be looking at the Arcane Archer expressed as a martial power system as opposed to the resource system that it currently uses, which I'm really excited about because it has a lot of strikes that it just knows. So it gets a shitload of bonus strikes, basically. That's super cool, which means we have design space to play with. I'm really excited about that. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow, but that probably won't be until 1 o'clock. Might be later. It's going to be later than usual, but I'll throw out a signal once it's up and running. So definitely follow me on Twitter. I always post when I'm live on Twitter, even if I don't broadcast it anywhere else. I drop on Twitter that I'm doing it. Like and subscribe so you can catch signal what's going on. We're running the 3 different developments right now: the Eberron Adventure, Spelljammer Combat and Exploration, and the Martial Power System. And once Spelljammer is done, we'll move Eberron forward to be our primary project. Martial Powers becomes our secondary Monday, Thursday stream, and then we'll have the once a week on Tuesday. We'll probably be Dragonlance for now. So, and then I'll have to, I'll probably make my, I may be changing my Saturday stream to a Saturday playtest, or I'll be doing Thursday night as a playtest. Monday, Thursday, or Saturday are the 3 days that I could potentially be doing a playtest on. But it'll only be 1 day a week because I can't do too much content too quickly, and I also want to keep it small so it doesn't eat too much of my production time for the other projects. So anyway, that's what's going on there. So thanks a lot for checking out, guys. I really appreciate you being around and bantering with me, and questions like that, and just random bullshit. It fuels my heart, and I really appreciate you. So looking forward to more with you guys in the future. Thanks a lot.